Hello students, I'm back with your next class. In today's class, we're going to start a new chapter in plant physiology, that is transport in plants. See, the plants, they do not have a well-developed circulatory system like animals, isn't it? But then, even after they don't have a well-developed circulatory system, they do have a very large body which may sometimes span up till hundreds of meters in which substances are to be transported, right? So in this chapter, we are going to learn about what are those processes by which the substances are transported within the plant body. All right. So we divide the chapter into two parts. In the first part, we will be discussing about certain, simple processes by which cell-to-cell transport will take place. Okay, cell-to-cell transport of materials will take place, and we can call it under short distance transport. And in the later half of the chapter, we'll discuss long distance transport, in which we will see how substances in bulk will be transported within the plant body from the root to the leaf or vice versa. Okay, that means that will be occurring by the help of the major conducting tissues, that is xylem and phloem. Alright, so let us start with the first part, that is short distance transport. Here we learn about certain simple processes that will allow substances to move from one cell to another, like diffusion, facilitated diffusion, active transport, osmosis, etc. Alright, so let's start with diffusion. See, the movement of substances from a region of higher concentration to lower concentration until an equilibrium is reached is called diffusion. So diffusion is a very common term and it is going to occur in your day-to-day life activities, right? Now, for you to remember it you have to be remembering this part very carefully, that in the plant body, because there is no as such well-developed circulatory system, so in that case, each part of the plant body would take care of its own gaseous needs by the help of diffusion. Alright, so entire gaseous exchange in the plant body occurs by the process of diffusion. So very important is diffusion for the survival of plants. Alright, so now see this, the diffusing molecules move randomly along the concentration gradient. Always the substances will move from higher to lower concentration. So as per a concentration gradient, substances will move under diffusion and the movement of the particles will be random. Alright. Now, the direction of diffusion of one substance is independent of the movement of another substance, right? Now, in plant, the gaseous movement within the plant body occurs by diffusion. Now, do remember certain important things regarding diffusion is that diffusion is directly proportional to the concentration of the diffusing particles or the temperature of the immediate surrounding. Okay, the more the concentration, the more will be the rate of diffusion. The more the temperature, the more will be the rate of diffusion. So it is directly proportional. All right. So see here, next, it is a slow process as an independent of living system. Now, this is very important. Do remember, in diffusion, there is no need for a membrane to be present or there is no need for a living cell to be present. Diffusion is a process which can occur inside as well as outside of the cell. Suppose you take a cup of tea and you put a sugar cube there. All right. So at first the sugar cube will position at one location or one site in the cup, but eventually, as the sugar molecule or the sugar cube will dissolve, you will find that the tea would become equally sweet everywhere. So this is a simple example of diffusion where the sugar molecules would move from higher to lower concentration until an equilibrium is reached, right? So in the cup or in this example, did you see any kind of living cell or living membrane to be present? No, right? So that means diffusion is a process that can be occurring independent of the presence of a membrane, independent of a living system. All right. Now, diffusion is directly proportional to temperature and concentration of diffusing particle, which I've already told you. Now, next we come to diffusion pressure or dP. See, the diffusing particles create a certain pressure called diffusion pressure, which is directly proportional to concentration of diffusing particles. Right? Now, pure water has maximum concentration. So pure water or any solvent in its purest form has maximum concentration, and I'm telling you that diffusion pressure is directly proportional to concentration. The more the concentration, the more will be the dP. In that case, if you correlate these two terms, that dP is directly proportional to concentration and pure water has maximum concentration. So in that case, both of them this linked together, what do you get about a particular idea regarding pure water's dP? Do remember here, pure water's dP is regarded to be maximum. This is very, very important. Pure water's dP is regarded to be maximum. Alright. Also, molecules will always move from higher to lower dP, from a region of higher dP to lower dP. Of course, it is dependent on the concentration after all. So, if substances are moving from higher to lower concentration, it would obviously be moving from higher dP to lower dP, right? So, this is all about diffusion or simple diffusion. Now, let us move on to another form of diffusion called facilitated diffusion. This diffusion is dependent on membrane proteins and it is also dependent on the presence of a living system. Alright, so see here. The diffusion of hydrophilic substances along concentration gradient through fixed membrane protein without energy involvement is called facilitated diffusion. So here the substances are moving as per concentration gradient itself. It's moving from higher to lower concentration itself. But it is going to take the help of certain membrane or carrier proteins or transport proteins. Okay. So that's why this type of transport has to be facilitated or has to be assisted. Right? That's why we call it facilitated diffusion. But do remember, because in this particular transport as well, substances are moving from higher to lower concentration, that is as per their natural tendency. So energy expenditure is not required. Energy expenditure in simple diffusion or facilitated diffusion would be absent. And whenever a transport occurs without expenditure of energy, we call it to be passive transport. So both this would be regarded as passive transport. Alright. Passive transport is also regarded as downhill transport. Okay, just like while you are coming down a hill, you don't have to give in, or you don't have to do any expenditure of energy, right? So that's why passive transport is also known as downhill transport. All right. Now see, it is sensitive to inhibitors which reacts with the protein side chains. Now, because facilitated diffusion takes the help of certain membrane proteins, these membrane proteins or carrier proteins are highly specific. They are very specific to the substrate in which they bind, and they can be easily inhibited by certain inhibitors which will be making them non-functional by reacting with their protein side chains. Okay, so they are sensitive to inhibitors, these carrier proteins. All right. Now, it is also subjected to saturation effect. Means, suppose in a particular facilitated diffusion there are 100 transport proteins which are participating. When all the 100 proteins will be bound to their substrate and all of the like transport proteins will be participating in the process, it is at that time that the rate of facilitated diffusion will become maximum, and it cannot go beyond that. So we call it to be saturation effect. We call that point to be saturation point. Understood? So facilitated diffusion is subjected to saturation effect. Means its rate will become maximum once all the carrier proteins involved in the transport will become functional. Alright? Now, water channels basically are formed by 8 different types of aquaporins which forms pores in the membrane allowing water transport. Now do remember one thing. Now see, because our plasma membrane, you have learned in fluid mosaic model, it is hydrophobic in its core, isn't it? So anything that is water soluble cannot readily pass through the plasma membrane. So water or water soluble substances, if it has to pass through the plasma membrane, its transport has to be facilitated. It cannot be occurring on its own. Alright, unlike the lipid-based substances. Lipid-based substances, lipid-soluble substances can pass through plasma membrane by simple diffusion. But water-soluble substances, it will pass through the plasma membrane by facilitated diffusion by the help of certain transport proteins. Now, taking into consideration water transport, there are certain proteins called aquaporins. They will form huge pores in the plasma membrane, allowing water or water-soluble substances to pass through. That's why we say that water channels are formed by 8 different types of aquaporins which have been reported to be utilized in facilitated diffusion. Alright. Now, types of facilitated diffusion. See, some carrier or transport proteins, they would allow diffusion only if two types of molecules will move together. Okay? It is called co-transport and can be of two types. Certain carrier proteins will take along or will carry not one, rather two substances simultaneously. So that would be regarded as co-transport. Now, co-transport can be of two types. Symport. If both the substances are moving in the same direction or are carried by the carrier protein in the same direction, we will call it symport. In case the carrier protein is taking the two substances in opposite directions, then we will call it antiport. And in case the carrier protein is taking along a molecule or a substance independent of the direction of movement of other molecules, we will call it uniport. Understood this? Clear? You can look at the diagrams to make yourself more clear about it. Alright. So that's all regarding facilitated diffusion. Do remember, this simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion both will be regarded as passive transport or downhill transport. Alright. Now moving on to another form of transport which is exact opposite of passive transport called active transport. Alright. See, it is the transport of materials across a membrane with the help of mobile carrier proteins and ATP. Here, the substances will move from lower to higher concentration, and because it is occurring against the concentration gradient, of course energy in the form of ATP has to be invested. Alright, so because in this type of transport ATP or energy has to be invested, we call this process to be uphill transport as well. Just like when you move up a hill, you have to invest a lot of energy. That's why we call it uphill transport. Alright. So see here, it is also called uphill transport. The protein pumps, basically in active transport, the proteins which are involved are called protein pumps. They transport substances from lower concentration to higher concentration, and that's why ATP is required. Now, it is much faster than passive transport. Of course, energy is being involved. So in that case, the pace or the rate at which active transport would occur would be much faster than passive transport. And just like facilitated diffusion, it is also sensitive to inhibitors and subjected to saturation effect. So in active transport as well, if all the protein pumps or all the carrier proteins involved will be functional, they all will be bound to their specific substrate and they all get functional, it is at that time that the rate of active transport would reach its maximum, which will be regarded as saturation effect. Alright, so this would be for today's class. In the next class, we'll start a very important topic, that is water potential. Thank you.